The Indus Valley, 4000 to 1800 BC. The early peoples of the Indian subcontinent lived on the banks of the Ganges and the Indus rivers. The first civilization sprang up in the Indus Valley, now in Pakistan. The two largest cities of the Indus Valley around 2000 BC were Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, each with around 40,000 people. They were among the world's largest cities at the time. At the center of each lay an artificial mound, which served as a citadel. On this mound stood a large granary, which, to the population, served as a kind of central bank. These forgotten cities were only discovered in the 1920s. City layout. Around this city, the central buildings were arranged in a grid pattern. Administration buildings, market, storage areas, workshops, houses, and temples. Each house was built around a courtyard and had rooms, a toilet, and a well. Buildings were made from mud bricks baked into the wood-fired ovens. The citadel at Mohenjo-Daro had a bathhouse, as well as private and public baths and meeting places. Farmers and crafts workers. Among other crops, the farmers of the Indus Valley grew barley, wheat, cotton, melons, and dates. Elephants and water buffalo were tamed to work the fields. The area had many skilled potters, who used wheels for throwing pots, a new technology at the time. Harappans used stone tools and made knives, weapons, bowls, and figures in bronze. They had an advanced system of waste disposal that included the building of covered drains and the installation of garbage chutes. The end of a civilization. No one knows who the people of the Indus Valley were or where they came from. We do not understand their writing either. The area had similarities to Sumer, but also major differences. The city dwellers traded with the cities of Sumer. They also traded with the tribespeople of India and Central Asia. The Indus Valley civilization lasted 800 years, but came to an end around 3,700 years ago. No one knows why it ended, but there are possible causes: floods, disease, a breakdown in trade, the economy, or civil disorder, immigration, or takeover by the Aryans who moved into India from Central Asia. All trace of the cities lay buried under sand until they were rediscovered in the 1920s.
The ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro is one of the first urban centers in human history. Nestled in southern Pakistan's Indus River Valley, Mohenjo-Daro is the largest and best preserved city of the Indus civilization, the earliest known civilization of the Indian subcontinent. Mohenjo-Daro was built around 2500 BC, about the same time the Great Pyramids were being built in Egypt, and it spanned a surface area of nearly 500 acres, an incredible size for a city of this time period. Because of Mohenjo-Daro's grand scale, archaeologists believe it may have served as a seat of power for the Indus civilization. The city was divided into two districts, the Citadel and the Lower Town. The Citadel is home to the city's exceptional monuments, including the Great Bath, a 900-square-foot tank fed from the Indus River. Mohenjo-Daro also had a sophisticated water system. Houses had baths and toilets, and the town featured both an elaborate sewage system and fresh water in 700 wells throughout the city. The Roman baths, some of history's most famous waterway systems, weren't constructed until many hundreds of years after Mohenjo-Daro's Great Bath. Mohenjo-Daro has no places of worship or governance, such as palaces, royal tombs, or temples. This may indicate that the society was not built around state interests like the Egyptian and Mesopotamian societies at the time. Rather, the class structure of Mohenjo-Daro may have been relatively equal. The city's second district, the Lower Town, may demonstrate the society's egalitarian structure. The lower town, with its intricate water system, was home to between 20,000 to 40,000 people. Unlike many urban areas of its time, it was laid out in a grid system similar to modern-day city blocks. After approximately 600 years, the city collapsed. No one is quite sure why, but the cause could potentially have been a change within the culture, or in the path of the river. Without its crucial source of water, the city's residents may have moved away, leaving Mohenjo-Daro nearly abandoned. In 1911, nearly 4,000 years after the city fell into ruin, archaeologists paid their first visit. The ensuing decades of excavations have unearthed countless clues that tell the tale of Mohenjo-Daro, but it still holds secrets for us to discover.
Every ruin has a story to tell, a story of its glorious past, a story of what brought about its present, a story of what it might have been to what it has become. Nearly 150 years ago, in the 1800s, when railway lines were being laid down for the first time in Punjab, engineers stumbled upon the site of Harappa in present-day Pakistan. To them, it seemed like a mound that was a rich source of ready-made, high-quality bricks. So, they carried away thousands of bricks from the mound to build railway lines. Little did they know that they had found and partially destroyed one of the oldest cities in the subcontinent, Harappa, a city that was about 4,700 years old. Harappa lay hidden in the 1920s when a group of archaeologists discovered ancient seals in Harappa. This discovery led to various excavations in Harappa and further excavations in cities such as Mohenjo-Daro in Sindh, Pakistan, Dholavira and Lothal in Gujarat, and Kalibanga in Rajasthan, India. During these excavations, archaeologists found a set of unique objects in almost all these cities. Red pottery painted with designs in black, stone weights, seals, special beads and copper tools. Since the remains and objects found in these cities were similar to those found in Harappa, archaeologists believe that all these cities belonged to a single civilization, the Indus Valley Civilization or the Harappan Civilization. The Harappan Civilization is known for its well-planned cities, which were usually divided into two parts, the citadel and the lower town. The citadel was usually located towards the west and was smaller but higher. The lower town was located towards the east and was larger but lower. The citadel consisted of some important structures, such as the public bath and the granary. The lower town consisted of houses and workshops. The lower town was divided into rectangular blocks and at wide roads. Most houses in the lower town were either 1 or 2 stories high and had rooms usually built around the courtyard. All the houses were made of baked bricks of uniform size. Most of the Harappan cities had covered drains that were laid out in straight lines. Each drain had a gentle slope so that water could flow through it. Very often, drains in houses were connected to those in streets, and smaller drains led into bigger ones. It's believed that houses, drains and streets were probably planned and built at the same time. Although the architecture across Harappan cities was similar, each city had at least one unique architectural structure. For example, in Mohenjo-Daro, a very special tank, which archaeologists called the Great Bath, was built in the citadel area. The Great Bath was lined with bricks and coated with plaster and tar to avoid seepage. The bath had adjoining rooms and steps leading down to it from two sides. Lothal, on the other hand, has remains of a bead factory, a huge tank and a storehouse. The remains of the bead factory indicate that Lothal had a flourishing bead industry, which made beads of stone, shell and metal. The huge tank at Lothal must have been a dockyard where boats and ships came in from the sea and through the river channel. Goods unloaded at the dockyard were probably stored in the storehouse, which was close to it. Lothal, like Kalibanga, also had fire altars where sacrifices may have been performed. Unlike some of the Harappan cities, which were divided into two parts, the city of Dholavira was divided into three parts: the citadel, the middle town and the lower town. Each part was surrounded by massive stone walls with entrances through gateways. It's unfortunate that none of the Harappan architecture has completely survived the test of time. All we see today are the ruins of a very sophisticated and advanced civilization, whose architecture continues to be the center of historical debate for so many, because so much remains unexcavated and unexplored. Let's recall what you have learned. The Harappan civilization extended from Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro in Pakistan to Dholavira, Lothal and Kalibanga in India. The Harappan cities were usually divided into two parts, the citadel and the lower town. The citadel was usually located towards the west and the lower town was located towards the east. Most houses in the lower town were either 1 or 2 stories high and had rooms built around a courtyard. Mohenjo-Daro had a very special tank called the Great Bath, which was built in the citadel area. Lothal has remains of a bead factory, a huge tank and a storehouse. The city of Dholavira was divided into 3 parts: the citadel, the middle town and the lower town.